Buenas tardes, and Shabbat Shalom. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matthew David Kramer, and I've been bestowed the great honor of officiating this union of Melanie Denise Avila and Bradley Evan Rankell in holy matrimony. Coincidentally, this also means that I have been imposed with the tremendous burden of convincing Melanie that despite everything I've come to learn about Bradley after nearly 20 plus years of friendship, he is indeed a worthy life partner. Now, you may be wondering what makes me qualified to succeed in these tasks. A nuptial CV, if you will. For starters, I am an attorney duly licensed to practice law in all courts in the state of California, State Bar number 324867, as well as in the federal court of the United States of America in the Central District of California. I am also a rabbinical school non-applicant and an unlicensed doula, and according to the certificate that I received from the website www.getordained.com, a reverend. Despite this astounding resume, there are perhaps two qualifications that are more important than the rest for purposes of this ceremony. First, I'm incredibly humble. Second, in addition to being one of Bradley's best friends dating back to when he was still breastfeeding and wearing diapers, or for the rest of us, what we would consider freshman year of high school, I had the opportunity to live with him and Melanie and watch their love blossom for more than a year. Now, before we get started, I want you both to take a deep breath, shake it out, take a look at each other, and take a look out at this crowd. Everyone here before you today loves you both so much, and they're here to celebrate your love. I'd like to thank you all for joining Mel and Bradley here today. Today is a celebration of love, of commitment, of friendship, and of family. We come together not to mark the start of a relationship, but to acknowledge and strengthen a bond that already exists. I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the focal point of where your stories began, as we are both blessed to have come from truly loving families. Brad and Mel are eternally grateful for their parents, Ed, Marianne, Steve, and Hope, who is unfortunately no longer with us. Hope was one of the sweetest and most loving people I've had the pleasure of knowing, and I know that if she was here today, she would be incredibly proud to see the type of man, husband, and father that her son Jordan has become. I also have no doubt that not only would she be incredibly proud of Bradley as well, but that she would be Melanie's biggest fan. I would also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge a few others who, although they may no longer be with us today, are for sure here in spirit and are proudly watching over you both. Brad's grandmother Gladys and great uncle Alan, and Melanie's cousin Amanda. We have come here today from different states and different cities. We have come from different backgrounds and different jobs. But despite all of our differences, love is what we all share. It's the great unifier, our one universal truth. That no matter who we are, where we come from, what we believe, or what we know that love is what we're doing right. That is why we're both standing here today, and why you have all gathered here to witness the joining of these two hearts. All of us here today have our own love stories. Some are short, others long. Some evolve slowly over time, while others ignite and erupt suddenly like a volcano. Now, as I previously mentioned, I had the pleasure of getting to know Melanie during our time as unofficial roommates. But before that fun-filled year, long before Melanie even came into Bradley's life, there was, of course, for me, a 15-year period of just Brad, aka Bradley, aka Birdley, aka the Birdman, aka B-Rad G from Chaminade. A boy who, up until the time he randomly got shredded, was just a pudgy, shy, quiet boy with alabaster skin, who defied all odds and became just the fifth Jewish man in history to run cross country during high school. A boy whose self-proclaimed three-point shooting prowess eventually blazed the trail for NBA greats like Nick Young and Jordan Poole. A boy who once consumed 10 bagels in a single sitting, despite being not under the influence of a single drug. And of course, a boy who was and still is the single greatest video game and ping pong player of all time, with a competitive nature that would make Tanya Harding blush. Growing up with Bradley was a roller coaster filled with a lot of happy and mainly stupid memories. And a lot of times where you would find yourself asking, what the hell is wrong with this kid? Needless to say, I think we can all agree that meeting Melanie has been the best thing that could have ever happened to our sweet, sweet Bradley. In fact, I knew that Mel was a keeper from the start. While I was on home on break from school in spring of 2018, Brad drove out to my parents' house in Oak Park for a quick introduction with this girl that he had been raving about for the previous few months. Now, Brad was never what you would have considered to be a real ladies' man, so I was curious to see who this lady was. Well, when Mel came prepared with a fresh breakfast burrito from Lily's in Malibu and some of her famous chocolate chip cookies, I was quickly won over. And even though our initial encounter was brief, Mel's quirky sense of humor and genuine sense of caring for others shone bright. Now, you may be asking yourself, Reverend Matt, how exactly did this love story come to be? Great question. Allow me to enlighten you. Much like most of our ancestors dating back to the time of the Stone Age, Brad and Mel playing the game of swipe left or swipe right on the dating app Hinge back in January of 2018. At this time, Melanie was navigating her way through the working world in her first few years as a young professional following her graduation from the University of Southern California, while Bradley was sitting hunchback like Quasimodo with his face buried in a birdwall book in some secluded desk at the most likely corrupt and soon to be discredited Southwestern School of Law. Coincidentally enough, of which my father is a proud alumnus. Bradley must have learned his catfishing skills from Monte Teo's fake online girlfriend, because after looking at his Hinge profile, Melanie thought he was just so cute and quickly asked him on a date. Bradley, never one to pass up a free drink, and intrigued by a picture of Melanie dressed up like his childhood hero Peter Pan, happily accepted her invitation. The two met up thereafter at a bar called the Wellsbourne for their first date, and sparks started flying immediately. Thankfully for Brad, Melanie is somewhat superficial, and after throwing back a few whiskey gingers, she thought he looked even cuter in person. Bradley was able to keep her entertained with hard-hitting questions like what her top 3 favorite Usher songs were, and Melanie was able to overlook his alma mater of UCLA and the fact that he was drinking a much more feminine beverage like a Sex on the Beach. Bradley was entranced by Melanie's silly sense of humor and her clumsiness, and politely offered to help her remove a ring that had gotten caught in her sweater earlier on and that she kept hidden until the end of the date. Neither of them wanted their first date to end, but as the night eventually wrapped up, Bradley drove Mel home and they shared their first kiss. This, of course, was only the beginning of their story. Relishing in the high from their first date like a little schoolgirl, Bradley acted quick and made sure to arrange a second date. Melanie, thankfully for him, Melanie had already told her friends that she knew Bradley was going to be her boyfriend. So sure enough, they found themselves on that second date. From there, things really started to pick up, and they soon started seeing each other multiple times per week. Whether it was going to the LA Zoo or simply hanging out and watching a movie, they couldn't get enough of each other, and they never looked back. Eventually, after spending a random evening together at LACMA, where Bradley was acting more weird and shady than normal, the two found themselves outside of the Cheesecake Factory waiting to be seated. Knowing that he couldn't truly enjoy Cheesecake's famous brown bread that awaited him until he did the deed, Bradley finally built up enough courage and asked Melanie to be his girlfriend. Now, being the stubborn, argumentative people that they both are, Brad and Mel continue to argue to this day about who said I love you first. Melanie claims that Brad said it while they were out with friends at Mom's Bar in Santa Monica, while Bradley claims that she said it shortly before that while they were sitting in their car. No matter who said it first, they both knew they loved each other early on. For Melanie, she knew it just about after the third date, and it was simple. They got along, had the same silly sense of humor, and she could truly be herself around him. For Bradley, it was slightly more gradual, but he finally realized he loved Melanie when they went to a UCLA versus USC baseball game at Dodger Stadium in April of 2018. They found themselves on the stadium's kiss cam, and even though she had laryngitis, Bradley didn't care. Taking the kiss cam as a sign, he put down his 5 hot dogs and plate of nachos and went in for a kiss with the lady he loved. By the time that I moved in with Bradley and Mel in January of 2019, their love for each other was only growing deeper and was hard to miss. Even though she technically wasn't a tenant of 1155 South Barrington Avenue, apartment 306, Melanie spent about 95% of her time there. And thank God for that. Otherwise, I probably would have killed Brad at some point. If there's a dirty dish, you can bet the bank that Brad's not going to wash it. During this year living together, I got to watch their relationship continue to blossom. But theirs wasn't like most early stage relationships. It seemed easy, effortless, genuine. Whether they were speaking to each other in weird voices, giggling at their own inside jokes, or Brad's random tickle attacks on Melanie that definitely made me feel somewhat uncomfortable, it was clear that they were already each other's best friend, that they had already spent a lifetime together. As our year as roomies wrapped up, Brad and Mel took the next step in their relationship and moved into their own place. Surely this step would bring about some opportunities for their whirlwind love to be challenged and tested, right? Well, no more than 2 months after they moved in were they told to buckle up because they were being placed in quarantine with each other due to COVID in March 2020. But much like Bradley's sexual prowess, this potential challenge was short lived and left Melanie completely unfazed. Rather, living together seemed completely normal and natural to them. Melanie became increasingly aware of Bradley's video game time and did all of the cooking, and she even made it easier for Bradley to do the dishes by purchasing paper plates that he could simply just throw in the trash. Despite the chaos that was going around in the outside world, and even though they were both working full time jobs, they made sure to always find time to spend with each other, whether it was working out early in the morning or binge watching shows like Survivor or Lost in the evening. It wasn't until 2021 that the relationship faced its first true challenge, presented in the form of a small and furry Australian shepherd puppy named Remy. And let me tell you, folks, boy oh boy, did this challenge test Melanie's patience. After spending countless hours training Remy on everything from going potty outdoors to basic obedience commands, there was Brad handing out treats to Remy for no reason other than being cute. But just like any other potential challenge they had faced until then, this too phased out quickly. Okay, sure, they must have at least have some pet peeves that have crept in over the years, right? And trust me, I tried to pry for some tea. I poked and prodded and tried to figure out if they had any pet peeves for each other. In fact, my own fiance was quick to rattle off about 15 pet peeves about me before either of them had a chance to answer. And when they finally did, it was severely underwhelming. Melanie's biggest pet peeves about Brad are that he gets mad at her when she doesn't know the answers to his random world geography questions. She also did add that she doesn't like when he paces and raises his voice during phone calls with stupid opposing counsel, that his attention span is terrible, and that he doesn't load the dishwasher correctly, which, as I've mentioned before, shouldn't even be a problem. For Brad, his biggest pet peeves about Melanie are that she is a scaredy cat, doesn't like to eat the bites of food that he offers to her while she was eating her own separate food, and that she rapid fire sneezes and always seems to do one more sneeze than he says blessies. More importantly than their pet peeves, however, are the things that they like about each other. For Melanie, it's Brad's silliness, his intellect, and how he teaches her new things every day, and how he is her safe space. She even loves his quirks of having to Google the answer to everything and having to know whether any particular person is Jewish or not. For Brad, it's Mel's silliness, thoughtfulness, problem solving ability, and her capacity for love. He also loves how good of a dog mom she is, her sense of justice, and her ability to bluntly deal with annoying or inconsiderate people. In May of 2023, after plenty of pressure from close family and friends, Bradley finally began planning a proposal for Mel. Unbeknownst to Bradley, however, Melanie would proceed to seemingly go out of her way to make this a very difficult task. You see, Bradley had arranged to propose at Sunstone Winery near Santa Barbara, and in order to get her there, Brad had to trick Mel into thinking that they would simply be getting dinner with Brad's brother Jordan and his wife Sophie. The day of the proposal, knowing that he would be popping the question later that day, Bradley simply suggested that Melanie wear something cute, to which she bluntly responded, "Don't tell me what to wear, I'll wear whatever the hell I want." Alright, rough start. As the day progressed, Brad kept making similar suggestions, and every time he did, Mel would respond by asking, "What are you going to do, propose?" She also continued to press Brad and wanted to know every single detail about that day, and he was scrambling to throw her off the scent. When they finally got to the winery, Bradley secretly conversed with their waiter and arranged for the wine cellar to be blocked off so that he could propose there, as it was the recommended spot for such an occasion. However, when the waiter came back to give the secret signal to Brad and offered to give them both a tour of the winery, Melanie quickly declined the offer and stated that they were just going to stay at the table. After some further convincing, Melanie finally agreed to tour the wine cellar, and as she turned around to complain to Brad that there were no more wine tastings left, she saw him down on one knee with an engagement ring in hand. Thankfully for Mel, all she had to do was agree to marry Brad, and the wine started flowing again. And that brings them here. A time to pause, look back, and smile at all the memories and moments that brought them there. Here. And a time to look ahead at all the moments that are still to come. I'm here, we're all here, because we want those moments for you. We're here to support you, to be with you, to be proud of you, and remind you that love isn't always easy. Love is the experience of writing your story. It's not one moment, not even this moment. It's every moment. Big ones like saying I love you, moving in together, getting engaged, starting a family. But mostly a million ones that come in between. Falling asleep next to each other, taking Remy out on daily walks, waking up at 4 a.m. to root for the lowly and despicable Arsenal Football Club, spending holidays with your families. These everyday moments that fuse together into one big experience. And even though this experience is so incredible, words fail us when we try and explain it. That's just the way it is with love. It's meant to be felt, not described. But trying to describe love is one of our favorite pastimes. We use words, we write stories and poems and songs about love. And even though we describe love in different ways, and even though love can look different from one person to the next, we all know it when we see it, and we see it here today. So prior to today, I asked you both to write a few words about what love is and what it means to each of you. Not surprisingly, your answers were pretty much the same. To Mel, love is being your truest self around someone and feeling safe. To Brad, love is the feeling of contentedness no matter the situation and being his 100% authentic self. Mel and Brad, do you, with your family and friends as your witnesses, present yourselves willingly and of your own accord to be joined in marriage? We do. Yep. Mel and Brad have written their own vows to share with each other today. Melanie has won the coin toss and elected to go first.
Bradley, 2,460 days ago, I swiped right and my life forever changed. I'm so excited and nervous to be standing here today. I'm only nervous though because I feel like someone is going to shake me on this really wonderful dream I'm having. I feel so incredibly lucky to have found you. You're the most perfect partner I could ask for. When reflecting on our love story, I have so many fond memories and milestones, such as the first time you took me to get a Lily's breakfast burrito, the first time you told me you loved me at Mom's bar, when you finally convinced me that cats suck and we should get a dog, and all those Disneyland trips and 6 a.m. pub outings to watch our game. One memory in particular stands out though. It is when you took me to Point Dune to see the secret beach. When we got there, you told me the only way to get to this beach was to climb over these very high and slippery rocks. What you didn't know then was I am overly cautious, scared of everything, cannot swim, and I did not climb things. However, we had just started dating, and I wanted to impress you. I was also promised an almond croissant afterwards. So I climbed over those scary rocks against my better judgment. But in that moment, I felt safe. You guided me over, I knew you had me, and I trusted you. That's how I felt with you every day since. You are my protector, my home, my best friend. You are always there to wipe away my tears, to listen when I need an ear, to guide when I need direction, and to cheer me on when I try a new food. I'm forever grateful for the love and patience you have shown for the past 6 years, and for the person I have become because of it. I love your ability to make me laugh every day, how incredibly smart you are, those blue eyes, your clever songs and silly dances. I love that you don't let an hour go by without telling me you love me. You're the most thoughtful and caring person I know, not just to me, but to your family, friends, and our Reggie girl. I love that you always know when I need a hug. I love that you make the most mundane tasks fun. I even love when you make fun of me. I keep finding new ways to fall in love with you every day. You are so special, Bradley. And I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. You're going to be an amazing husband and an even better father one day. Today, as we stand in front of all the people we love, I am making the easiest decision of my life. So I promise to dream with you, celebrate with you, and walk beside you through whatever life brings. I promise to keep our relationship silly and full of laughter. I promise to keep leaving my food scraps on my plate for you. I know what life is like without you, and now that I have you, I promise to never take you for granted. I promise to always watch the Lord of the Rings movies with you every Christmas. I cannot promise, though, I won't cry every time Aragorn tells the Hobbit to keep out on that one. I promise to always fight for us, this marriage, and the family we will create. I promise to love you my entire lifetime, and I promise to find my way back to you in the next. Lastly, I promise to always climb over those very high and slippery rocks with you. I will follow you anywhere. I love you.
Melanie, I would say that you stole my heart, but I'd be lying. It's been yours ever since your ring got stuck to your sweater that night we met at the Wellspring. I knew then that you were as big a klutz as me and that I had met my match. Despite being a USC grad, there's so many things I love about you. I love the way your eyes light up when you see a chocolate chip cookie, or your exaggerated arm movements when you're invested in telling a really long story. I love how nurturing and considerate you have always been with me, no matter how much I may annoy you. But perhaps most of all, I love that you don't take no guff from nobody. For instance, when anyone dares attempt to cut us in line for gas at Costco, the CVS pharmacy, or God forbid the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which at that time, and let me say this unequivocally, did not have fast pass. They got a piece of your mind because you are unapologetically you, and you don't give a hoot what anyone thinks. I got to see all of these facets of your personality over the first 2 years we dated, hopping from apartment to apartment each day to see each other after work. Occasionally, you would even put a whooping on my roommate Matt when we'd all play Super Smash Bros. Or Monopoly Deal with your trademark line, "Who ordered all the soup?" I still don't know what it means, but it's provocative. During that time, I got a glimpse of your silliness, humor, and love for friends and family. But it wasn't until we moved in together in February 2020 that I got the most authentic version of you. Fortunately, that was a pretty uneventful year, so we had a lot of time on our hands to get to know each other. Living with you through the pandemic taught me that you were at once the biggest baby I know, while simultaneously the strongest person I've ever met. This was confirmed when we brought our dog Remy home with us in 2021. I watched as Remy's puppy antics understandably drove you to the brink of insanity. But right as you were hitting your breaking point with her, you became the greatest dog mom ever by noticing her unusual behavior and taking her to the emergency room just in the nick of time. Since then, I've watched you become her biggest fan and, of course, founding member of the Brownie Bunch. That same love and nurturing instinct has been a constant with you since the day we met. Despite the myriad of medical issues I've had, you've always remained by my side, earning the much deserved and esteemed title, Caregiver Lady, amongst my 3,000 other plus nicknames I have for you. I'm so grateful and honored to have you by my side and feel even a fraction of the love of your love and care. As we stand here today, I know my mom would be overjoyed, knowing she would get another daughter she didn't have but always wanted. While you didn't have the opportunity to meet her, I'm confident she would immediately recognize the love you have for me and would adore you all the more for it. Your selflessness and dedication to not only me, but to your family and friends makes me so optimistic for what the future may hold, whether that means starting a family of our own or simply getting to be your husband. In having that privilege, I promise first and foremost to always make you laugh. Your infectious smile and laugh is what originally drew me to you, and I will never tire of hearing your ridiculous giggle. Whether it is a stupid dance in the living room, walking with a water bottle balancing on my head, or replicating the sound of a doorstop, I can't help but make you smile. And while not all of my attempts are successful, at least 70% land. You allow me to be the most authentic version of myself, and I love and thank you for that. I promise to always be patient with you and support you. I'll always be there to listen to you and occasionally provide some input, even though most times you just want to vent. I will always be your shoulder to cry on and will never stop being your biggest supporter the same way that you've always been for me. Finally, I also promise to never take you for granted. Life is not always rosy, and I vow to cherish, respect, and love you through the best of times and the worst times. You're my best friend, and no matter the difficulties we may encounter in the future, I'll always be here for you. I love you.
Do you take Melanie to be your wife?
I do.
Do you promise to love, honor, cherish, and protect her, forsaking all others, and on holding only into her forevermore.
I do.
Melanie, please place the ring on Bradley's finger. Melanie, do you take Bradley to be your husband?
I do.
Do you promise to love, honor, cherish, and protect him, forsaking all others, and holding only unto him forevermore?
I do.
Having this love in your hearts, you have both chosen to wear rings as a reminder of these promises. People often say wedding bands are a perfect circle, with no beginning and no end. But like your story, these rings did have a beginning. Something beautiful was made from what started as raw elements. Love is like that. It comes from humble beginnings, and through a combination of serendipity and effort, imperfect beings shape into something extraordinary. It's the process of making something beautiful where there was once nothing at all. Just as you will protect these rings, I'm confident you will protect the commitments you've made to each other today. I hope you both remember that as you continue to write your story together. We conclude this ceremony with the breaking of the glass. In Jewish tradition, the breaking of the glass is a symbolic prayer and hope that your love for one another will remain until the pieces of the glass comes together again, or in other words, that your love will last forever. The fragile nature of the glass also suggests the frailty of human relationships. Even the strongest relationships is subject to disintegration. May your bond of love be as difficult to break as it would be to put together the pieces of this glass. Now, after I announce the married couple for the first time, Bradley will use one of his two left feet to ferociously stomp down onto this piece of glass, and Jeff Goldblum willing, it will shatter into pieces, bringing their marriage years of good luck and happiness. It is at this time where you, the lucky crowd, will greet the newlyweds with a thunderous shout of Mazel Tov and proceed to stand out of your seats and clap and cheer as they make their way down the aisle towards the rest of their lives with each other. Got it? Now, without any further ado, having pledged their love to one another, and to honor and cherish one another in the presence of this gathering, and by the power vested in me by the state of California and the wonderful website www.getordained.com, it is my honor to pronounce you husband and wife and introduce to you all for the first time Mr. and Mrs. Bradley and Melanie Rankell. You may kiss the bride.
I'm so thirsty.
Kiss, kiss, kiss!
Thank you guys.
to invite you to keep your attention on Melanie and Bradley, where they'd like to say hello to everyone.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Brad. This is Melanie. If you don't, honestly, thank you all so much for taking the time to be here today. I know a lot of you have come from pretty far out. We got the Bay Area over here. We got Dallas, Fort Worth, Indiana. And honestly, you are the people who matter most to us on this entire planet, and for you to be here tonight means everything to us. So, thank you, and yeah.
Hello.
During the wedding planning process, I kept hearing, you're never gonna have all of these people in one spot again. So thank you all for coming. I know you came from different parts of the world and the country. So thank you so much for coming. We love all of you. And I have one more favor to ask. When the dance floor opens, please pack it.
Back at this union between the two of you guys. Brad, take a breath. I'm not going to roast you. But I am going to say how immensely proud of him I am, what he's accomplished heretofore in his life. He's a real mentor. One of my proudest moments and memories of Brad is when his mother Hope was so gravely ill that he would constantly come and visit her. That semester when Brad was in law school, he not only got straight A's, but then he went on to pass the bar in his first attempt.
Woo! Yeah, you nerd.
I love the grit and determination that he exhibited while he was doing that. Yeah. I'd also like to welcome Melanie, my new daughter-in-law, to the family, as well as Melanie is a very, very accomplished woman, and she's also incredibly compatible with Bradley. I hope they always live in love, harmony, and have compassion in their life. Kids, life ain't easy. So while crossing the street of life, hold each other's hand and cling on to each other. And without any further ado, let's give the newlywed couple a toast.
Thank you, Stephen. And now we'd like to invite
L'chaim.
the father of the bride, Ed, to come up.
I was at the hospital. I was working a night shift, and I got a pager because that was way back in 1991. We didn't have cell phones, so I got a page, and so I got there like around 10:30, and I was born on April the 15th. So I was really hoping that she would be born on my birthday. She was late. She was born like maybe at 2 a.m. in the morning, so she's April the 16th. And I'm going to say that's probably the only time she's ever been late, because she is very on time all the time. Never late, so good for her. And Bradley is such an intelligent, nice young man. When I first met him, I knew he was the one for her.
Oh.
So, yeah, thanks for being here, and let's raise our glasses, and arriba,
Arriba, abajo.
abajo,
Oops, oops.
y adentro. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And now
Just like one of the happiest, this is one of the happiest days that I've had in a long time. So I'm really excited to have you and welcome you to the family. Also, just want to thank the Rankell family, my dad, and the Avilas for making this all possible today and bringing everyone together. So, really beautiful occasion. Again, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Bradley's older brother, Jordan. And as the best man, I have a unique opportunity to share some stories about the young fellow, where I can kind of give you a glimpse behind the curtain and describe Bradley as I know him, as my brother and my best friend. I was told to keep this brief, but if you know me, I'm not in the business of keeping stories brief, because where's the fun in that? As you once told me on my wedding day, buckle up, buckaroo.
Oh, he's done.
Let's get started. Growing up, Bradley had a deeply troubled childhood. His life was filled with paranoia, fear, desperation, and utter anxiety. Not for any other reason other than he didn't know the moment I would strike like a cobra from the shadows, with a swift judo chop to the throat like Austin Powers, or a little like Cesar Millan straight to the tracks. Sweet Bradley learned from a young age to keep his head on a swivel because he was this hormonal little boy's little personal punching bag. I'd like to think I was simply molding him, just as the dark molded Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I was born in the darkness, readying him for the battle of life and for any tough guys that got in his way on the playground.